What's up YouTube? Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com. Since we're in a situation where we don't have access to our normal facilities, probably can't utilize our normal training program, and we might not even be able to work with our coach as we usually can, we need to get creative and think about how can we train now and set ourselves up for success so that way when all this is back to normal, we can get back into training just as we like to train and just how we need to train to improve. How can we do things now that set us up for success when that time comes? In my mind, the best thing that we can do is do what I'm doing right now. Get outside, find a nice park, find some nice hills, and just get some good quality but basic training in that will build up your training volume, get you some great generalized training that relates to sprinting that you can then build upon later when you have access to a track or a gym. Oftentimes, it's very easy to get caught up in worrying, am I doing enough of this type of training? Am I lifting enough? Am I doing enough speed work? Is it gonna hurt me if I take a break from training? It's very easy to get anxious about the little changes that we might make to our training program or breaks we might take in our training program and let that anxiety of what it would do to our performance really take over, and it can be a challenge mentally and emotionally to deal with that. But you have to understand, changes to your training, breaks from training, they fit into a holistic, overall, high quality training program. You can't just train all year, you can't go hard all year, and even if you do take breaks, it's unlikely that you're able to go, as fast as possible all year round, whether you have access to facilities or not. So this time that we have where we're not able to access the track, probably not going to work as much as you were before, or maybe you're not going to school, well, because this is sort of thrust upon us and it's not something of our choosing, the quarantines and all that stuff, we have to just work with the situation that we're in. And that means finding public spaces, or if you have a nice big, giant ranch that you live on, maybe a private space, but find a public space like a nice park, find some hills, and just get out and do some nice basic sprint training. This can include, like I said, hills. You could have short hills that are more for shorter acceleration training or maybe some power-oriented work. You could do jump training on short hills, like double leg bounds, single leg bounds, broad jumps up the hill, stiff leg hops up the hill. If you find a longer hill that's a little bit flatter, you can work on sprints that maybe they're up to 50 or 60 meters, and you're able to go fast enough to where it's relevant to sprinting, but it's at a steep enough angle to make it challenging and to make you feel like it's challenging your strength endurance, power endurance, and give you enough time to sprint so that way it's not just some short burst. We want to incorporate both types of hill training into our training program normally, and so right now you might as well do the homework to find where you can access a shorter, steeper hill and a longer, flatter hill. Also, you're going to want some nice open grass so that way you could build up accelerations, longer sprints. You could do tempo endurance runs. It could be intensive tempo, which is going to be 80, 85%, maybe 90%, but you can also do extensive tempo, which is going to be 50 to 75% effort, but with shorter rest periods. Lately what I've been doing is one day I might focus on hills, maybe it's biased towards shorter hills or short hills mixed with some accelerations, and then another day is going to be sort of just good build-ups where I'm building up, accelerating over a long distance and then trying to maintain. Maybe I'm doing 80s, 100s or something like that. And then another day where I might take it out a little longer. Maybe I'm going 150 or 200. It doesn't have to be fast. It could be 24, 25 seconds for a 200, but it's long enough to where you run out of momentum, so to speak, and you have to continue to put out effort to continue running. We want to balance these different aspects of training so that way when it's time to come back, we're in a good place from a holistic standpoint and our body is really prepared to run faster, because if you go from the grass to the track, you're going to be able to run faster on the track, and your body needs to be prepared for that. You're also going to be able to access a gym at some point. So just because you don't have weights now, though, doesn't mean you can't do anything that is relevant to strength or power. And that's where, once again, those hills really come in handy, because say you have a nice steep hill, well, instead of going and doing, box jumps or depth jumps or power cleans or something like that, why don't you just do double leg bounds, which is also called a broad jump or a repeated broad jump, up the hill. You have to be very powerful to do that. It takes a lot of force production. You have to be very aware of your body. It's a good coordinative challenge. Why don't you do that? Instead of doing depth jumps, like I mentioned, you could also do stiff leg hops up the hill. So you're still getting a nice intense plyometric effect at the ankle, knee, and hip joint, but you're doing it up a hill so you can repeatedly do it. Maybe you're now able to work on your balance a little bit better. Instead of when you're at the gym, you do depth jumps or something, stiff leg hops on flat ground. Those stiff leg hops on flat ground are not gonna challenge you as much from a coordinative standpoint. So those are the little areas where this time where at first glance it feels like we're constrained by the situation because we're not able to go to the track or the gym, really it could be an opportunity to do things we aren't used to normally doing. And anytime you take that opportunity to branch out a little bit, experiment with your training, I don't mean doing crazy weird stuff, but doing things that are logical, maybe kind of old school. Like running up a hill is old school. Nowadays we use sleds, we use exogenes, we use 1080 sprint. We don't need any of that stuff. We have nature, we have a hill, we have gravity. We can do acceleration work just like that. You mix in some flat ground acceleration work with those hills, and all of a sudden you might find that boom, I'm feeling better than even before because you changed up your training, you used something different, and it gave you an opportunity to grow. If all you ever do is the same stuff, if all we ever have access to is the track and the gym, and we do fast sprints on the track, heavy lifts or power lifts in the gym, if all we ever do is that, eventually we're gonna run out of the ability to improve because we've just wedged ourselves into this one narrow way of operating, and we've maxed out that narrow way of operating. When instead, if we have a bigger foundation, a more, a wide range of strengths, if you can be strong running on flat ground, up a hill, for short distances, for a little bit longer distances, with short rest, with long rest, if you can be, competent in all of those different types of, ways of exerting yourself physically, then when it comes time to get back on the track and do more, competition-oriented sprint training, I think you're going to be in better shape, and I think you'll be better off than if you just, sat around on your couch this whole time, if you acted depressed, if you thought about quitting, if you thought, all my gains are lost now. Got to throw those attitudes out the window, and we need to just focus on what opportunities we can seek right now, what we can find as an opportunity based on the situation. So how do we do that? Well, get on Google Maps, look on satellite view and see where are parks, or you could just search park. And then when it comes up, you could look on there, probably find some pictures of a park and see what you're dealing with. Find a good park that's nearby, and you could get a lot of good training there. I'm sitting on a park bench right now. Well, if I wanted to do step-ups, I could do them on here. If I had some, bands or something, I could rig them up to the bench and do some band exercises. We're really only limited by what we can come up with in our head and what we're able to do physically based on injuries, if we're sick or all that stuff. But given that most of us are not hurt and most of us are healthy, we really have all kinds of opportunity to train right now. It's just, if you can't step outside what you've always done because you're afraid of what that might cause, you're afraid of failing, or you're afraid that the training you do now might not work out, you just gotta let that go and realize whatever you do right now is gonna help you if you just be a little bit logical. You don't go too hard and burn yourself out the first week. It's just like any other time of the year. We're just getting some good quality training in, enough to stress our bodies, but not so much that we can't recover. It needs to be specific enough to our event so that way it transfers. So for us as sprinters, that's going to be sprinting. We don't need to do anything fancy. We could just sprint at different speeds, different distances, different rest periods, and flat versus inclined ground. If you mix that up, you don't need anything else. Yes, we can always shoot to improve in the gym. We can always aim to get stronger or whatever, but at the end of the day, if you can put in good quality sprint training and you can do a nice variety of fundamental types of training, you're going to be doing quite well when it comes time to get back on the track and train for your competitions. So hopefully guys, you find this somewhat helpful, and I hope you can take something from it, whether that's just motivation, whether that's an idea of how you can train when you don't have access to your facilities. But just I hope you take it to heart that right now is a great opportunity, and the people who are going to be left behind next season and the season after are the people who didn't take advantage of this opportunity. And the people who are going to be winning, are going to be setting personal bests, and who are going to be feeling good physically, mentally, and emotionally when everything's back to normal, are the people who took advantage of this time, got outside, got some good training in, and set themselves up for success. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you liked this video. Please hit a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Got programs down below. If you have any questions, let me know. This is Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com, signing off.